Hoffschmidt, founder and CEO of Alpha Sophia, and this week I'm joined by Ben Ross, Head of Sales at Spring-Loaded Technologies. Great to have you on the pod, Ben, this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Paul. I'm looking forward to this. Should be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Maybe to start right in, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey, where you started and how you ended up in your current role.
Yeah, for sure, right? So I got into sales as a 24-year-old. I went to university, didn't do well, didn't really know what I was doing. Did community college, got out of there, and then kind of got bit by the sales bug. And I found this kind of boiler room, I call it a boiler room type sales job where you're making 200 calls a day and you're just phone calling, cold calling. And it was incredible. I loved it, right? I'd go home.
That's the best education. Yeah, having just talking to many people and refining your sales pitch and getting getting the different spins of different customers, probably the best way to start, right?
You're getting punched in the face, right?
Yeah.
You go in there, you get punched in the face a million times. You get that one sale, you're like, yes, it was a good day, right? But it was no salary. Right? The salary was very, very small, and it was all commission, right? So you're dialing for dollars at this point. This is what, 24. So it was 2016. So it was a while ago, right? Or 2015. So it was a while ago. But I just got bit by the bug, right? So I would come home and just read sales books. And then about a year and a half into that, I found this company called Spring Loaded, which is based in Halifax, where I'm located at. And it wasn't really about the medical device. It was more so this looked like an innovative product. It looked really cool. They had a bunch of athletes and everything. The knee brace itself. It was small, so there was an opportunity to get in the ground floor. And after reading a bunch of books, I knew I wanted to be in sales, but I wanted to be kind of on the ground floor. So I got hired basically on the spot. Got in there, and I got hired, and that was 8 years ago. And it basically took from I got hired, and it was mainly a direct to consumer type sales role. And as I started rising up, and about a year into that, I started trying to carve out a role where we would take the knee brace to physicians, clinics, kind of that B2B HCP model away from the D2C model. And I try to spearhead that kind of on the side, right? I
don't want to jump in, but I can imagine like starting out D2C and talking to patients all day. That was probably great preparation to then start talking to physicians and having like all those stories of patients in the back of your back to talk about their experiences with your product, I assume.
Paul, you nailed it, right? Like it's understanding, and this is like with understanding kind of the ecosystem you're involved in and all the stakeholders, right? So understanding the values and the problems that clinicians have, physicians have, but ultimately what are the problems that patients have that your product can help solve? And understanding kind of their stories, right? So you get a 70-year-old, grandmother that only wants to lift up her grandkids while she's babysitting, but she has significant knee pain. Understand those stories and then being able to take those stories back to clinicians and saying, this is the type of patient we help. Not the diagnosis, not the indication, but this is the type of patient we help, and we want to get them back to kind of that function, that activity they want to get back to. So yeah, I kind of rose up at Spring Loaded. I spearheaded that HCP channel, and then about 4.5 years ago, I took over kind of as director of sales, head of sales at Spring Loaded, and kind of as the years go on, that becomes our number one channel, that HCP B2B channel. And now, it's 8 years later, and we're in Canada, and we're launching in the US here sooner than later. And then just outside of Spring Loaded, I love running. I regularly train for half marathons, and I'm training for one right now in Toronto in a couple months. I play hockey 3 days a week. We got 3 dogs. I just proposed on Friday.
Wow! And
so what's that? That's January. January 17th, I think it was the date. So I just proposed on Friday, and
congrats.
Yeah, it was great, man. I planned it all within a day.
That's how you should do it. Yeah, just follow your gut.
I knew I was going to propose, but I had no plan.
I mean, you have like 7 years of sales experience in closing, so I hope.
You're just hey, you're just. I was like, hey, I'm a big picture guy, right? So I knew I knew I was going to propose. Just didn't know the small details until I got into it. But then I work best under pressure. So yeah, that's kind of me, right? I one thing I will add, I do have a twin brother that looks exactly like me. So you might actually see him on LinkedIn sometimes too, and some people actually second guess and are like, did Ben just go work for another company? No, that's actually his twin brother Sam. So
is he also a medical device or?
Kind of health and wellness, but he's more on the software side of things.
Okay.
So it's two different. Like I'm on the hard, I like the hard goods, that tangible side of things. He's more on the software side of things. So yeah, that's me to a T.
Yeah, great to have you on, and excited to chat more with you about your experience in sales, what your recommendations would be to other sales leaders, to upcoming innovators who are trying to launch products to the whole market. And I can imagine your journey within Spring Loaded, where you basically started in D2C, then went to B2B, climbed the ladder. I mean, that's a perfect basis for our discussion today. Maybe let's dive a little bit deeper into Spring Loaded technologies. Could you maybe explain to a layperson what you're doing? You already touched it, knee braces, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that, your focus and your niche within that market.
Absolutely, right? So kind of our ultimate goal is to be the leader in spring-assisted devices or orthosis within 5 years for all joints, to basically help patients improve their pain and function. But right now we have one product, right? It's a spring-loaded brace. And when we take it back for a second and look at knee arthritis and where individuals can have knee arthritis. So we're talking to a layperson, right? So arthritis can be in three areas of the knee. The inside of the knee, so the medial compartment, the outside of the knee, the lateral compartment, or the middle of the knee, the kneecap, essentially, the patella compartment. And all three compartments can be affected by arthritis. When you look at the stats, 68% of patients who have arthritis have multiple compartments affected, all three compartments affected, or the kneecap itself affected. Okay, 68% of patients. Only 32% of patients that have knee arthritis have either the inside or the outside compartment only affected. So only 32% of patients with knee arthritis have only one of the inside or outside compartment affected. But when you look at knee bracing itself, arthritis knee braces, 99% of knee braces are designed for that 32% of the population. So 99% of arthritis braces are designed for that 32% of knee OA patients with either the inside or the outside of the knee affected. The other 68% of patients who have knee arthritis have never had a bracing solution until we came along, really 12 years ago, but commercialized 7 years ago. We came out with a product and a brace that can actually reduce pressure across all three compartments of the knee, wall and flexion. So it's the only brace that's able to do that. So that's kind of where we fit in the market. When you think about patients, but also physicians, there's finally an option for patellofemoral OA or multi-compartment osteoarthritis. And kind of in the grand scheme, the brace itself, there's two springs in it. We absorb body weight as you go into flexion, store energy, and then assist the patient into extension by returning that energy back to the brace. So our whole goal is to help with mobility, not just stability, and that's a big differentiator.
And that's probably a growing market, right? With the aging population and increasing number of patients in that space, right?
Man, honestly, Paul, like bracing itself, knee bracing itself, it's funny, right? So our arthritis braces started, Don Joy kind of came out with it in the 80s, but really spearheaded OSUR. Are you familiar with OSUR? OSSUR. They're a big company. They're based in Iceland, right?
Yeah.
So OSUR spearheaded the unicompartment offloader, a medial offloader, called the Unloader 1. They actually bought that Unloader brand from a company that started in Canada, Generation 2, started in Vancouver, and they bought that company. OSUR bought that company in the early 2000s. So it's kind of cool. And 20 years later, we got another company from the other side of Canada trying to spearhead a movement in knee bracing. But to go back to your question, the market, right? So knee bracing has always been pretty kind of just consistent growth year after year, but no real innovation when it comes to knee bracing. There's been really that focus on medial or lateral unicompartment arthritis, nothing for multi or tri-compartment arthritis. So over the last couple of years, when we released this version, that's been the big first change when it comes to knee bracing in quite some time, maybe 20 years. as far as an innovation, as far as a different indication that we can help with. And yeah, the market's grown. Arthritis, I think 50% of individuals will develop knee arthritis in their lifetime, and that's growing. Yeah, it's a massive market, and non-surgical care for solutions for knee OA is growing too. There's several options. So you got to figure out a way to stand out in that market for sure. It's a busy market.
Maybe to build on that a little bit from your experience in sales, selling with spring-loaded technologies over the course of the last years, and having worked with multiple salespeople in that field, being in sales yourself, what would you say differentiates a good rep from a great rep? What are the key success factors to succeed?
There's a lot, right? And I think the biggest one is adaptability. So I'll go over a few notes, but like adaptability is, what worked last year or what worked 6 months ago might not work today, might not work 6 months from now, might not work a year from now. That sales rep has to be understanding that they need to continue to adapt and continue to learn new skills on what the market needs and what the market's going to actually value. I'm hoping I didn't freeze there. I think Paul's frozen. I'll keep talking.
No, it's I can hear you. It's all fine.
Okay, good. I'm hoping the market. Sorry. So adaptability is number one, right? Being able to adjust what you're doing. I think understanding kind of the ecosystem, right? So the big thing is about, some sales reps will like, I need to know the product. I need to know the product. I need to know the product. But understanding the ecosystem, all stakeholders involved, takes time. To understand that ecosystem, you need to have several conversations. You need to learn. You need to be on LinkedIn, understanding kind of the problems that your stakeholders have. But understanding your ecosystem is absolutely crucial. What problems does a patient have? What problems does a clinic that for us sell into? What problems the prescriber has? And how can you add value as a sales rep with what you offer to help solve those problems, right? Curiosity. I have a curious mind, right? My fiance says all the time, she's like, you ask way too many questions. And yeah, maybe I do, right? But I always want to understand the why. So having a curious mind, asking questions, and then also listening to those answers, I think that's huge. I think a big thing is owner's mindset. So having when you're running a territory, even if you have equity or no equity in the company, as a sales rep, understanding that you're you're an owner, you're owning your territory, right? That you're the face that clinician or prescriber or individual sees, right? When they think of your company, when they think about Spring Loaded, so we have a rep in Toronto, right? When you think about Spring Loaded, when that rep goes into a clinic in Toronto, and that clinician thinks about Spring Loaded, we want them to think about Dave, who's our rep in Ontario. We want them to think about his face. So having that owner's mindset. The number one, two more. I got two more. Okay, content creation. I think more and more great sales reps need to understand how to make their own content, not be reliant on their company and just sending out posting a PDF on LinkedIn of that their company's marketing department created. That's not going to work. Creating content that's authentic, maybe it's not about your product, but it's about you. It's about where you see the industry going. So for example, for what I post on LinkedIn, I post a lot about sales, right? I post about quality over quantity. I post about how to target. I post sometimes about our brace. I post about what surgeons in the U.S. are thinking about, and then try to get feedback from them. Creating content is absolutely crucial because that's is going to what helps you stay top of mind for your prospects. Essentially, when your prospects go on LinkedIn and they see your face over and over again, you're not annoying to them, but it's like, oh, geez, what's Ben doing? What's Ben talking about? They click your profile and it helps kind of keeps top of mind. One last thing, Paul, availability. I'm a big person for always being available because clinicians are so busy that they don't have time to think about you. Like they might only have 2 minutes one time and they think about you. You better, and when they call you, you better have that. You better be able to pick that phone up. You better be able to answer that text or answer that email. So being available is absolutely crucial. Those are kind of the high level. I could go on for days about this, but I'll keep it to those ones to start with.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I all the points you mentioned resonated with me highly. I mean, what you said in the beginning about adaptability. I mean, even if we think back like 2-3 years from the tool stack that was available, it's so much different. Yeah? How you could do outreach to clinicians, how you can prepare yourself, and so on. So that's constantly changing. It's also an arms race. I mean, you own that territory, but you're probably in that territory up against competitors, and they're also not sleeping. And I mean, it's always like if you're not moving forward, you're actually moving backwards, yeah? And that's something everyone has to have in their mind. I mean, sometimes there's this notion that companies reach a point where they've succeeded, and then they can just be in that heaven of having won. I mean, that might exist for a few monopoly type companies, but it usually doesn't exist. The normal case that it doesn't exist, and you always have to improve and find new product solutions, find new ways to go to market, improve your sales spin towards the customer cohorts you're targeting. I mean, you probably have a different narrative you had back when you were talking to patients compared to now talking to HCPs. Also, if you learned a lot about your product in that time, about common questions which you're encountering and so on. So just keeping on top of your game is so important.
Well, it's so funny, right? Like I remember when we first started, and even when I first started sales, that first sales job I ever had, I'm making 200 calls a day, right? And then even when we first started spearheading this HCP B2B channel with Spring Loading in Canada, my first notion was let's pick up the phone and make 50 calls a day to clinics. And what happens there is you're calling 50 clinics and you keep getting the gatekeeper and they're like, oh, Dr. So-and-so is not available. And you're like, okay, how do I get, and you finish that day and you have 50 calls, you made 50 calls to clinics, and it's like, did I really accomplish anything? Or did I say, oh, I made 50 calls. That's awesome. Opposed to now, as the years go on, it's so much more important to be highly targeted on who and how you reach out, right? I'd much rather, so for example, Hawaii last week, I went and met with I had one meeting in Hawaii. I could have went and tried to set up 10 meetings, try to drop into 10 different clinics. I didn't, right? 5 years ago, I might have did that because that was like, oh, that would make me feel good. That's what you're supposed to do as a sales rep. But now I think it's all about being highly targeted on who you reach out to. I'd rather have one really high quality meeting than just dropping off 10 different brochures at 10 different clinics. So it's evolving, right? For sure. Paul, what do you think about, now I'm the host, right? But what do you think about keeping things simple, right? And what I mean by that is when you're speaking to clinicians, or in your case, medical device companies, keeping your value prop, keeping your pitch to the point and simple. When I say those words, what do you think about that?
I think that's super important because it's also about the attention span you were mentioning earlier. Yeah. And I mean, every person, whether it's a clinician where they just don't have any time at all, and you're happy if you get like those 1-2 minutes at some point, or any other business leader who's also quite time constrained, they want you to understand their pain point quickly and get straight to the point to what you're actually solving for them. What we try to do is basically already start educating our customers long before they actually become customers. Get them acquainted with our solutions and so on. And we sometimes say the best thing that can happen to us is in sales if they've already looked at other solutions in that market or adjacent things, because then they're already warmed up and we can really focus on the things we do much better and how we can solve their problems in a better way. And that's great. So I mean, I'm really happy about all our competitors because they contribute to educating the market and educating customers, and then basically making those customers sensitive for the problem set that exists in the space. And then it's basically about showing them how your solution really hits the nail perfectly.
Helps tailor it to it.
Yeah.
How do you help that prospect? No, 100%, right? It's like you're kind of having a competitor laying the seed or planting the seed of education is, it helps a ton, right? It makes a market a lot more prime for what you're offering.
Simple question. Can you afford to have a rep in every county, or do you need to be hyper-targeted in your outreach? Do you need to know information about your targets going in to be successful, or do you have years and years before you want to close that deal? If you want to be focused, if you want to deliver fast, you should visit alphasophia.com and help your sales team out.
Touched it lightly, and we just talked a little bit about competition in the market, and every market has competition. And there might be an overlap with my question about how sales reps can succeed, but how would you say medical device companies, or especially smaller and medium-sized medical device startups, which are still uprising, which are still trying to capture market share in an existing market, what would you say are essential strategies for those uprising medical device companies to stay competitive, get an edge in a competitive market or competitive environment?
So I'm going to give you guys a plug here, okay? I think Alpha Sophia. Now, I all transparency, Spring Loaded does not use Alpha Sophia right now. We hope to in the future as we kind of finalize our investment raise. But from what I've seen with the demo of Alpha Sophia, that's one of the best tools to utilize without me using it, right? But to understand how to target the proper prospects, right? So as a small company, medical device company, or even a medium size that doesn't have a bunch of feet on the ground sales reps, how do you be efficient? How do you be effective? How do you, instead of trying to find that needle in the haystack, how do you have a sniper rifle and use that rifle to find that ideal target prospect? How do you do that, right? A platform like Alpha Sophia or competitors will help you do that because it will help you. For us, for example, we can actually see what type of physician or what type of clinic is doing the most knee bracing throughout the year. What clinic or what physician is ordering the most braces for a specific code? Who's seeing the most amount of knee OA? What specialty is seeing that? And you can subspecialize it and break it down that way. That's a great tool, right? That helps. I think having that helps you stay very efficient and very effective. And finding tools like that, right? So there's another company here that I'm meeting with tomorrow, and I hate I'm all about the plugs, right? But I'm meeting with this physician direct company, which it's a platform which sets up small companies, medium-sized companies with earlier adopter medical or physicians, essentially orthopedics, that could be interested in learning more about your product. That's huge, right? You get 15 meetings, and it's very targeted. You can choose kind of the type of surgeon you want to meet with and their background. That's great. So those are two kind of, I think, tech stacks, say if you want to call it that I think makes it really efficient. The other thing is, how do you stay apart? How do you kind of scale yourself without adding a bunch of reps? It's content, right? It's continuing to produce content every day, and not just me as a sales rep or head of sales, but our sales reps, your CEO. Paul, you guys do a great job there, right? Your CTO, anyone involved in your company should post as much as possible about what's authentic to them, because that's going to help you stay top of mind and stay connected. Connect with more and more of your prospects on LinkedIn, because
I do agree.
Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. Yeah.
And the great thing about content is there's basically an accumulating function. Yeah. Once you do it more and more and more, it starts paying rent at some point. Yeah, because you have to be continuous and just keep doing it. But you build up some sort of media equity, which then just leads to continuous inflows of potential leads and opportunities.
Paul, I think when you started posting, I can speak for myself. Like when I started posting, I might only get 2 likes, right? And you got to be willing to be okay with only getting 2 or 3, likes or comments and not having that much action, because to your point, as you start posting more and more, you become more top of mind to your prospects. You're on LinkedIn more, all that stuff, but you also become just better at it,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
It's not just for the content on LinkedIn or social media, but you just become you become more creative. Your mind becomes better for it. You start understanding what type of content resonates. It's just another skill that you start unlocking, but you don't get there until you practice a bunch. And you don't get to practice but just by doing a video and doing a webcam and not posting anywhere. You got to post to the world and just, take your licks and see what people like. And I think that's a really, really crucial element there for sure.
I do agree. And I think one big factor about content, and especially not just those glossy marketing brochures you were mentioning, just reposting a PDF on LinkedIn. Sticking your face to something, especially when you're a smaller company and just starting up, just creates a lot of trust. And in the beginning, when you start a company, you're competing with brand entities, big MedTech or anyone in your space who just have trust enshrined in their long-term brand they've had for 10, 20, 40, 50 years. And you need to compete with that. But your big advantage is usually, someone in a big corporate isn't so keen sticking his face or her face to something. And that's your advantage. Yeah. If you do that, that can create a lot of trust quite quickly, because you're actually associating yourself with your company and being responsible for the actions of your company, being out there, being approachable. If someone sends me a LinkedIn message, I'm going to reply to them. It's just, I'm always saying that I'm just like a LinkedIn message or an email away. It's super close, and that can just create a big uplift to get into a market where everyone else is. If you look at it, open up LinkedIn, you see many people posting, but if you would see the share of people out there and who's actually doing it, it's still quite small. Yeah, so you can differentiate yourself. If you start posting every day, you're already in the top 1%, like in a week. It's
100%.
So it's basically a great way of gathering an audience quickly.
No, I completely agree. Like when did you start posting on LinkedIn? How long ago? Like just kind of even.
So we started approximately 2 years ago. We started a bit earlier in the initial phase when we started building Alpha Sophia, and that connects a little bit what you were saying in your initial phase as a sales rep. So even before we started building product, I started messaging hundreds of sales leaders, sales reps in the medical device space, just telling them we are currently building a product in this field. I'm just being transparent. It's not there yet, but I would like to chat with you and hear your thoughts. And we did that. We did that early on, and I think I talked to a couple of hundred people just who replied to my message, and were like, okay, you can have 5 minutes, you can have 10 minutes, yeah. And I called them. The best message that worked the best was like, when do you have like 5 minutes of windshield time? When are you in your car? Yeah? I can call you then. It doesn't matter. Even if it was like, I don't know, 1 a.m. at night here in Europe, I would call those people and talk to them on their way back home, in their car, and ask them, what are the current problems you are encountering? What's working? What's not yet working? And so on. And you just have to do stuff that doesn't scale in the beginning, but which rewards you a lot by learning about the actual customer problems out there. And yet again, that's something many others are not doing. So you can really differentiate yourself there and learn something other people are not seeing.
And you're disarming them, right? You're just disarming those prospects when you say, hey, do you have 5 minutes of windshield time? We have no product yet, but I'd love to pick your brain on what could help, how we could develop something that could help what you guys could solve a problem, what you guys are looking for right now, right? It's disarming them is huge. I think, and the market feedback, right? It's crucial. Like when we first launched the spring-loaded brace into that kind of HCP B2B market in Canada, it was a bulky brace. Concept was great. it worked on certain patients, but didn't work on a lot because of the shape of the brace, the heaviness of it, the bulkiness of it. So that first year, year and a half, 2 years, we're going out with a brace that works on certain patients, but not that many. But a lot of that was just market research, right?
Yeah.
Having the conversation and saying, hey, doctor so-and-so, like, I know this probably doesn't fit what you need right now, but if we could make a better fitting brace with the same concept, where could you see it fitting in? And you get a ton of feedback from that. And that's what led to our latest version, which we released 3 years ago, which has led to significant traction. But I want to go back to something about where you mentioned kind of the bigger companies maybe not wanting to post on LinkedIn. And some people do a really good job, but some people with bigger companies just, they don't need to, right? Maybe they just, they have inbound calls coming in. It's a, they have people just coming to them, right? No, it's not like people, they don't need to just do that because people are coming to them. And I think that kind of goes back to that, Jim Collins always in his book, Good to Great, always refers to this, get the right people in the right seat on the bus, right? So like, could we have, the people we have at Spring Loader right now has really, they're the right people in the right seats and they're on the bus because we all have the right mindset of trying to build this up from a small company into a medium into a larger size company, right? But could we have done that with a bunch of executives that have been with big companies previously and they were in these seats instead? Probably not, because they would be used to waiting for inbound calls to come through, right? They wouldn't be that scrappy person that had to go back out and try to find those leads. So and then, hey, if we become a big, medium-sized, larger company in the future, maybe I'm not the right person in the seat, right? Because maybe my skill set lends towards, being on that ground floor in that startup environment. So yeah, it's fascinating to think about, right? The right people in the right seats.
I do agree. Maybe looking a little bit in the future, what change do you see in medical sales coming up in the next couple of years? Any trends you see on the horizon?
AI.
Which are, and in which form, in terms of supporting sales or?
Yeah, so I think, I'm still learning on this myself, but I think AI, when it comes to sales can be absolutely beneficial, even like, ChatGPT, but kind of just at a large level, like just personalization, right? So I do we do this. Matthew Ray Scott actually on LinkedIn helped coin this, but going into ChatGPT with a prompt and saying this is the physician I want to reach out to. I want to these are the problems that we typically help with. This is his bio. Can you create me a video message, transcript basically that outlines how I can help this physician with my product and make it highly personalized and highly engaging. And ChatGPT comes back with a transcript basically that says exactly what I should say, right? And you can take it and kind of adjust it. I think AI can help with sales support with personalization significantly. I think with research, I think it can help you understand who to target properly. So I think just right now I'm using it for personalization. I think and then emails, helping personalize emails or follow up emails. ChatGPT helps me answer those. It saves me more and more time by doing that. I'm excited to see what the future holds with how it could help even more. Like with what you guys are doing, are you guys seeing a platform area where AI could help with Alpha Sophia?
I mean, we're already using AI a lot on the background to actually clean data, attribute data, and so on, especially when it comes to unstructured data sources. But we're also working on integrating it further into our user interface and building things where we can leverage the proprietary data we have in our platform, which is attributed towards HCPs, practices, and so on, to then go in that direction, support more personalized outreach methodologies,
100%,
cadences,
right?
and so on.
Cadences too, right? Like tasks. It should be. It's going to get to a point where, as a salesperson that's going in to meet with your prospects, you should be able to understand how to personalize your message. The research is already done for you. You're going in there to have a really good and you can focus on that conversation. The questions are asked, listening. That's what you want to focus on, providing good support, all that stuff. All the back-end support stuff should all be kind of done by AI, hopefully in the future. And I'm already using a lot of that with, just ChatGPT and all that stuff. So I think there's it's going to keep growing.
No, I agree. And it's also interesting, I think, with AI, you can do a lot of basically A/B testing, what you would be doing what you did in your early phase when you called 50 people. You tried different messagings, different opening lines and arguments. Basically, you can iterate through different versions of your sales narrative through that at scale when you're doing digital outreach and so on, and then just continuously let the model learn and craft versions of your outreach which have the highest likelihood of attracting potential leads. Maybe one last closing question then. What's your main focus? And I think we could continue forever here. Absolutely. It's fantastic speaking with you. Looking into the future, what's going to be your main focus with spring-loaded technology in the this year, next couple of years, coming months, whatever time horizon you want to pick?
So this year, absolutely, Paul. So 2025, we will launch in the US. So in Canada, we've had significant traction year over year. And now is a time to launch in the US under an insurance code, multiple insurance codes. So in the next few months, it's identifying early adopter physicians, innovators that are looking to help patients have patellofemoral OA, multi-compartment OA, and that we can provide them a treatment option that can help those patients, but also provide a financial incentive to where they own the clinic and they can sell the brace. So finding those clinicians that are interested in utilizing the product, early adopters, and then by Q2, Q3, continue to ramp up that launch in the US, expanding more with more clinicians and prescribers. And by the end of 2025, ideally we're fully launched in the US, and 2026 will be even busier with expanding in international markets and continue to build from there while still focusing on Canada.
Fantastic. Then I want to wish you and the whole team the most of success with your upcoming US launch. Ben, it was a great pleasure having you on the pod today. Thank you very much, and looking forward to welcome you back in the future.
Paul, this is awesome. I hope I get asked to come back in the future, maybe in a couple of months. That'd be great. Cheers.
Definitely. Cheers.
Like it or not, you're in a fight for physician attention. And in this fight, you'll want to leverage best-in-class targeting data, 360-degree profiles of every target, omni-channel outreach, and so much more. Great MedTech sales teams don't want to work without Alpha Sophia anymore. Visit us at alphasophia.com and learn more.